யான் பெற்ற இன்பம் பெருகையு வையம். இது திருமந்திரம். அனைவருக்கும் இனிய மாலை வணக்கம். It's been a great pleasure joining you all in this golden evening. Our topic for the day is sustainability, the future in the current situation. Our AAA had showed lots of interest through recent AGM to spread sustainability mantra to our members as well as community. Spreading sustainability through any channel or mode such as physical events, knowledge sharing sessions, and so on. Our ultimate objective is to enable sustainability in the community to manage any situation in the day-to-day activities. Well, we all know knowledge sharing is an art. AAA Singapore will be happy to provide a platform in the name of knowledge sharing session. This is an exclusive session to connect the industry experts, legends, and leaders to all of our members both in Singapore and across the globe to gain the knowledge on the specific topic. So without any further delay, I would like to invite our AAA President, Mr. Soundararajan, for an intro note and to launch AAA sustainability initiatives. Mr. Soundararajan, stage is yours. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Sandil, for welcoming all of us and passing the baton to me. Sustainability, when we talk about sustainability, it's a very big, very large, and very vast topic. So then, a lot of interest was shown among AAA members. In fact, as early as last year, stalwarts like Anbu, started coming up with proposals early last year, in fact. How do we involve AAA, with sustainability engagements and so on. So, that kind of that level of interest that we have among our members. And then subsequently, Dr. Venkat also used to speak to me about sustainability during the last year. He not just speaks and stops, but he also writes articles in the journals and magazines. And he's also publishing a book in Tamil called Masala Puvi. On this sustainability topic. So, he's gone one step ahead. And leaders like Sundar, today is our speaker, they are putting the sustainability in the practice on the ground to the organizations and to build the nations. So with all that cooking in the last year and the real momentum gained during the AGM. So last AGM when we had in January 2022, Parthiban brought an interesting topic of sustainability and spoke at length. And then several other members, gave their views and opinions and interest in the AGM and, what AAA should do towards sustainability. So we hear you, AAA members, we hear you, we heard you. So the executive committee took it seriously. We discussed internally in the committee and then finally decided to include sustainability as an agenda for 2022 and beyond. So with that, I am pleased to launch sustainability initiatives on behalf of AAA. Is my slide visible?
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah, we are able to see that.
Yes, yeah, thank you. So I'm pleased to launch sustainability initiatives today on behalf of AAA. And AAA will make a meaningful contribution towards sustainability. So this is the first event, this is kind of knowledge dissemination, knowledge sharing, creating awareness among the members. But what is sustainability? So what we can contribute as an individual to the sustainability, what we as an organization, as a AAA can contribute to the society and all that. So this is just the first event. And, since Anbu started way back in the last year, and it is also, I'm pleased to know that Anbu's, committee is launching this, in fact, in the knowledge sharing section where he is heading as a subcommittee head. So it's a great platform for us to launch AAA sustainability initiatives and many more to come. And we also, the committee, discussed how we engage AAA in the sustainability as a responsible organization, to the society. So what we took is that, we also, in the upcoming Tamil Moli Vila, which is the date is finalized for as April 24th this year, And we have also selected a topic relevant to the sustainability. The topic is Iyerkayum Tamilar Vazhvom. And the concept behind the topic is that Iyerkayodu Iyendhu Vazhvom Iyerkayai Kappom. And that is the concept that we have chosen, the topic of Iyerkayum Tamilar Vazhvom for this Tamil Moli Villa 2022. And then we also took Singapore has published a roadmap and the blueprint for Green Plan 2030. So we said, okay, how do we engage ourselves and what are the areas that we could associate ourselves into this plan and fitting ourselves into that? So, some of the low hanging fruits is that safeguarding our coastline against rising sea levels. This can be done with the simple activities of seashore cleaning and beach cleaning, or it can be river cleaning through kayak. So these kind of activities we can involve our AAA members, and these are something that immediately doable and some low-hanging fruits out there. And we can also go and educate our family members to how to reduce waste and reduce consumption. It could be a consumption of water, it could be a consumption of electricity, and also reusing the materials like a paper and so on. So we can educate our family members, we can take that awareness to our own community within AAA in the family. And probably also safeguarding our food security. So we can also educate our people that not to waste food, and at the same time, how do we grow even a small, simple things at our home, or even in the community gardens. So some of the things that we could do, and we encourage and create awareness of taking public transport for commuting. And even if you want to buy your own car, and you can buy an electric vehicle. And the information all of you should know is that by 2030 there is no more internal combustion engine registration for the cars in Singapore beyond 2030. So probably these are some of the government norms that's announced, so you may be interested. And we could even go and plant trees, and of course this would cost some money. So I mean, we can decide, and the executive committee is discussing what are the things that we could do in 2020 and beyond, because this is not a short-term engagement or plan, what we are planning for. So we have a long roadmap from 2020 to 2030. So, and the executive committee is deciding that what activities that we can do in 2022 to start with, and then we can take it in, and the next committees will take it into the roadmap up to 2030. So I'm sure that this would become a very impactful project for AAA. And with all of us, this is not possible just with us or just with government push or anything. So it is all the four parties together that need to come together: government, public, private sector, and social organizations and NGO organizations. So all of the four parties needs to come together, and then keep the nature and do our part to make the sustainability a reality. So as a responsible social organization, AAA is committing to act as a major player in creating awareness among our community, as well as work with like-minded organizations and like PA, MCCY, Ministry of Sustainability and Environment, to take it to a larger audience beyond AAA as well. So with that, people always say that we need to change minds. So I would say here, we don't want to change minds here. We want to change people's heart by the underlying beliefs and motives. We are only planting a seed now in this function by launching, but I'm confident that AAA will make a meaningful contribution towards sustainability and way beyond 2022 and even up to 2030 for Singapore to achieve the green plan and pass our green planet to the next generation. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Back to you, Sandil.
Thank you, Mr. Saundar, for your excellent intro note and launching AAA sustainability initiatives. It really means a lot at the time. Now, I would like to invite Head of Youth Committee, Mr. Karu, to introduce our speaker for this session, Mr. Sundar Vadivelan. Mr. Karu, stage is yours, please.
Thank you, Sundar. அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். Thanks for the opportunity to introduce Sundar, who is speaker for tonight. Sundar is a civil engineering professional with more than 30 years of industry experience in both Singapore and India. Before joining SMU in January 2015, Sundar worked extensively with multinational corporations for about 20 years in Singapore, with expertise in key areas within the realm of property development. He has delivered a variety of buildings like infrastructure and petrochemical projects. Some notable ones are IT College West, Singapore, Malaysia, second crossing bridge, Bukit Panjang LRT, and also the Chinatown MRT. He had an ambition and led the team to transform all the SMU buildings to achieve the status of 100% green mark platinum campus in 2018, and had delivered an iconic net zero energy building using environmentally friendly moss engineered timber and various smart energy solutions in 2020. He is currently steering another similar pro-environment development, which is super low energy building, which is slated for completion in 2022. Sundar leads many initiatives to support the university's mission and is a key member of university level committee which oversees policies and strategies. Currently, he is heavily involved in a holistic study in a transformation of the campus and a strategy on sustainability for next decade. And moreover, we know Sundar is also our ex-vice president and also president for term 2015 to 2016. Sundar also has led many initiatives for AAA. Through this, Sundar has empowered AAA members and has an inspiration for fellow anomalies through his professional guidance and support. And on top of that, I knew Sundar is a natural lover and always emphasizes on sustainability in his personal life as well. With this note, I would like to invite Mr. Sundar to deliver his very useful speech for tonight. Thank you for the opportunity. Sundar. So what is Sundar? Thank you.
Thanks, Guru. Let me organize my slide quickly. Hope the slide is showing up.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. First of all, அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். Very good evening. It's a pleasure to meet my old friends, the new friends, and a lot of experts gathering here. Thank you everyone again for joining us today. And thanks to the president of AAA and the organizing team for inviting me to do this presentation. And thanks to Karu for the introduction as well. The topic of today is sustainability of the future. When we talk about sustainability, I think I'm sure some or other everyone come across this word, or someone may be traveling in this sustainability journey. I can see experts joining here. So all of us will be in a very different level of understanding, awareness, action, and promoting sustainability. So I believe if this session actually going to create some awareness, bring some curiosity to understand a little bit better about sustainability, and if it's going to inspire someone to take action, I believe this session will do justice for your time. So thank you very much again for joining. Before I get into the details of the topic, I thought of discussing the meaning of sustainability itself. This came about to my mind to put this slide only 2 days ago. I was just talking to my wife about this, and then she asked me, what is sustainability? And then I tried to explain to her the way I understand sustainability, and then she explained the way she understands about sustainability. And then I'm sure here all of us will have some understanding about sustainability. And it's not only us, there's nothing wrong with that. I think you're absolutely right, because even the intellectual community in the world have different opinions. And there's no one statement which the world agrees for now. So with that, I'm having some explanation on the left, which will give an idea about what the experts are saying. This is about making small changes that we can make to help to look after the planet, or meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And of course, so exist and develop without depleting the natural resources. And making the right choices today so that we will make the planet not just enough, but positive, provide positive impact on the planet tomorrow. So when we talk about sustainability, it's just not about only the human. That's where I think I would like to introduce the word biodiversity, which most of you know. It just contains more than the man. It contains the planet, the animal life, the birds, the fungi, the microorganisms, the plants, and everything. And not only the species, but also the communities they form and the habitats in which they live. So thinking about sustainability, it is just not about the human. It is more than humans. It's about entire planet and whatever lives in this planet and whatever is actually making up this planet. So with that, I thought of putting the final meaning. Sustainability is about sustaining the biodiversity of the planet for now and future. The topic is sustainability in the future, but I think here I emphasize now, because if you see the slides coming up later, that will give you an idea why the action has to be now. So with this, I thought of giving you some idea. I'm sure we all understand this, but still I was not very convinced, because I think the language could be a barrier for some of us. And even to me, I think sometimes the language is barrier. So I thought maybe giving a small example in Tamil. Sustainability எப்படி புரிஞ்சுக்கலாம் அப்படின்னா, நம்ம இந்தியால தமிழகத்துல எஸ்பெஷலி ஆட்டோக்கள் எல்லாம் பின்னாடி வாசகம் நிறைய எழுதியிருப்பாங்க. நிறைய நல்ல வாசகங்கள் எழுதியிருப்பாங்க. அதுல ஒரு வாசகம் வந்து it relates to us and other, aimed at other human being. But if you use that phrase, namalum, not only other human beings, the other species in the world, the plants, the animals, then I think that may give a better meaning. The phrase is vaazhu vaazhavidu. So let us live and let others live. When I say others, not just human, I think the entire world. So sustainability is all about just not doing things for ourselves. It's for doing for other species, other ecosystem, and not only for now, it's also for the future. So with it, nowadays there are 3 pillars on sustainability, the way expert explains. They don't just look at environmental. If you look at the explanations on the left, it's all environmental. But they also say it is fair to include the social aspects and the economic aspects together in the sustainability framework. So to simply understand, it's people, profit, and planet. So we people with our unique mind to make economic developments, we are actually depleting the planet resources. But when the time comes, if everything coexists together, that's the time we probably achieve the sustainability, a sustainable future for this world, for everyone of the species in the world. So I believe this giving a bit of understanding on sustainability. So from there, I will go to the agenda. So why we are talking about sustainability today? There must be a reason. And what's the issue behind it? And why it's happening? And I would like to explain in a few slides later on. And what is being done to address this globally and also locally. In fact, when I mentioned locally, it's about Singapore. I think Sounder has given some glimpse of what the Singapore is doing already. And as an organization, what the Singapore Management University is contributing, And also there are opportunities. When there's a problem, there are opportunities always. So there are opportunities arising in sustainability arena. And the last bullet point I will leave to all of us to ponder with at the later stage. So this is a graph may be familiar with many of us. This is talking about the global warming, the climate change happening over the last 100 decades. The blues becoming yellow and yellow becoming red over the years. And this is not happening on one day, but it's happening over the decade or so, century as well. The worrying thing is just not the land mass is getting heated up, the ocean as well. So the entire planet is getting up. This is actually shifting the stability on the biodiversity. And this is a graph which you may want to see what's happening on the level of carbon dioxide being emitted over 1 million years of our Earth. If you look at the left-hand side, it's saying 800,000 years, close to 1 million year. And the band is actually talking about the carbon dioxide level parts per million. So it's hovering between around 180 to 280, say 300. That is the line it's been traveling for the last millennium. But if you look at the right-hand side, in 1950, even before, a little bit before that, the carbon dioxide emissions has shoot up like exponentially. This is a cause for this is the cause of the problem, one cause of the problem, and then we see what's happening because of that. I'm sure some of you may already aware of the greenhouse effect. This is nothing wrong. This is very nature. The nature invites sun to shine its lights on the sun, on the earth, and some energy is reflected back, some energy is absorbed, and some is redirected. But the greenhouse gases actually forming a layer here, and it started trapping more than it can trap. It can actually hold. So the more and more greenhouse gases are being emitted from the earth, this layer is actually getting thicker and thicker. So what it does, it actually trapping the heat within this atmosphere. That is actually warming up the landmass and the ocean. I believe this explains to an extent what's happening. If you want me to give an analogy, I can give a very quick analogy on to understand a little bit better. Recently, during pandemic, I'm sure every one of us has gone through steam inhalation. So just imagine a person actually inhaling with a vessel and then with the steam coming up and with a blanket on. And if the vessel is going to be on the stove, but someone is trying to help you by putting another blanket, another blanket, another blanket. So what happens? That blanket traps the heat and we will be very uncomfortable. Imagine if the person going to help us to put on the stove itself. That's going to be the effect. Believe it or not, that will be the effect if nothing is being done for this. So the gases are good, but all done within the limit is fine. But if it's not going to be controlled, this will possibly create the world much more warmer. And we talk about the greenhouse and the gases. Mainly when we talk about it, the predominant gas is CO2, but also there are many other gases, including methane. So these gases emitted directly and by a person, by entity, by an organization, by a country, and also indirectly. To just give an idea about directly, for example, sometime back, okay, if you want to have a shower, you boil water, sometime back with the wood. When you make wood, you produce smoke. So nama pogapadum. So namala pogapota is actually direct. But nowadays we are actually getting electricity to heat up the water, and we are getting the hot water, but we don't know how the electricity comes to us. So someone is burning on top of us. Someone is actually doing the burning of the oil to get the electricity to us. So that is also, let's consider indirect. Of course, there are many other things. For example, if you travel by car, that is actually direct. If you travel by airplane, I think it's actually indirect. So there are many versions. Whatever we do, it emits carbon. So there are nowadays measures about how do we measure. It's actually measured by either kg or ton per ton COE2. It's not CO2, CO2e because carbon equivalent, carbon dioxide equivalent. So this is the common measure is being used to measure the carbon footprint. It can be measured for a country, it can be measured for an organization, it can be measured for an individual. In fact, there are many apps, and even Singapore developed a site. You can see what is my carbon footprint. If you go and click, it's a little bit broad-based, but I think that will give you an idea about what the carbon footprint we are actually producing or making. What's our carbon footprint every day or every year? Just to give you an idea, the global average is about 4 tons COE2, but Singapore is emitting double. But what we need to get is half of the world average. So we have a lot of opportunity in Singapore and of course elsewhere in the world to make a difference. I will just try to touch on some of the impacts on global warming and climate change. The pictures say something, but most of us know by the news that the glacial retreat is happening. The extreme summer is getting hotter and the winter getting colder, and declining of the sea ice everywhere. And extreme events, I think, happening everywhere. I think it's happening even in Kerala floods or Chennai floods in India, or many other floods in northern India, and even in Singapore facing flash floods time to time. And it's not uncommon in Asia as well. And the sea level rising is a real issue, and the sea water acidification is another issue. The sea pollution is happening. So with that, there's a huge challenge for many countries and cities. If nothing done, many cities will go underwater in the years to come. And Singapore is facing this threat. 1/3 of its island will go underwater if nothing is done by 2100. So forest fires is not new. It's just not only in Australia, it's happening in the US. And we know our neighbor Indonesia is having forest fires. And even Singapore, from time to time, you can remember we have bushfires. So if you look at the right-hand side, the polar bear walking on the road, it reminds me of something which happened some years ago. In my native place, Tanjavur, I went to my sister's house. The complaint is monkey is coming to her house. When I was studying in Tanjavur about 30, 40 years ago, that place where her house is now is a forest. So you can understand who invaded whose place. So it is not the monkey coming to the human's place, the human went into the forest to the monkey's place. So this is what exactly happening. The civilization, the economic development is actually tilting the balance in the biodiversity. And as noted here, there are other patterns changing that changes the ocean land masses and ice sheets, and that resulting in food security, insecurity, and water resources are depleting, and started affecting our health, and it's affecting the biodiversity. Why all this happening, and when it's all started? I think we have to look at this slide because this is where I think all the changes happen in this world on the economical side. The Industrial Revolution too, in 1800s, that's where I think the transport, the oil, the manufacturing, the electricity is all invented. So in 1900s, I think the mass adoption of all this happened, and IT, the one which is becoming our life nowadays, even through which we are actually communicating, has evolved. And the Revolution 4.0, this last decade, I think that's where the iPhone was introduced. The smartphone now, without that we can't live. It looks very smart, but actually not very smart on carbon emission. We are all having data on the phone, on the computer, and I'm sure we all know we are storing in the cloud. I don't know which cloud we are storing. Actually, the cloud is actually data centers. The data centers are one of the biggest energy guzzlers, and it emits so much energy. And I think even there's an attempt to put the data center under the ocean. I don't know how that idea works, but that's how the data center, it takes energy. So, and every nation is building so many data centers, including Singapore. So the more and more we look at things, the Industrial Revolution is causing a bigger impact on this global warming. And the main drivers are the electricity, the transport, the manufacturing, the construction, IT. Where the electricity comes from? The electricity is mainly coming from the fossil fuels, even now. It's more than 80%. The fossil fuels, you take it coal, oil, natural gas, these are all burnt to produce the electricity. So the more we use electricity, and then there's more attention now to going towards renewable energy later on. But at this point in time, we are still using much of the fossil fuels for our electricity. Apart from all those, what I said in the previous slide, the agriculture. We know agriculture is very vital for us, nothing wrong with that. But the Green Revolution has actually transformed agriculture. It's the way it is being done. Mass production done. Some data shows we are overproducing the food than what is actually required. It's not by 1-2%, it's about 50% overproduction is happening now. For the population, we have about 8 million population in the world. But we know not all the 8 billion is being served equally. So the wealthy, the affordable, taking more. Whether they're eating it up, they know they are actually wasting it up. So the food is overproduced and being wasted. And there are carbon emissions on certain element of foods. You see the graph. I'm sure the non-vegetarian lovers will curse me today. The cattle, the goat, the beef, the lamb, so and the fish, the milk products. These are all causing the major greenhouse gas emissions in the food industry. So there's also nowadays environmentalists talk about going vegetarian or vegan. This is one of the reasons why they're talking about eat less meat. In recent studies, the alternatives being actually discussed. Even in Singapore, the artificial meat is being introduced. And surveys a couple of days ago, it says Singaporeans are more keen to eat artificial meat than the Americans. But God only knows what's going to happen for this. So the agriculture is one of the things which is really affecting not only the global warming, but also it uses 50% of the land what we have. And it uses 70% of the fresh water what we have, and leaving only the remaining for our households and industry. And it's also a cause for pollution because the agriculture involves many fertilizing, many methods which actually causing the ocean to pollute and changing the chemical composition of the ocean. And lastly, the wild animals are disappearing. data shows 60% of the wild animals disappeared from the world in the last 50 years. So livestock being brought up by the human for our consumption. So that is where I think the biodiversity is being affected. Without the forest, we have a big problem. So we know, I think most of us know what the forest does. Forest is just not only providing shelter for animals, birds, insects, microorganisms, and also it provides biodiversity, and more importantly, this is one of the major carbon sink. It absorbs carbon. So that's why the trees are actually like gods for us. We really have to take care of the trees in order to take care of ourselves. The graph shows three colors. The green, we know what is the light green, light red below, that is the deforestation. And the green is a little bit of positive sign there, because forest gain also happening over these years. It's just not deforestation happens all the time. And the net loss is what is at the middle band, which is a darker red. The worrying thing is the darker red is getting bigger and bigger. So we will have to see more and more green is actually happening, and we have to lessen the lighter green to compensate it. And these two slides I'm going to put up for countries, which is not really pointing to finding fault on any of the countries. That's not the intention. The intention is just to give an idea. Some of you may be interested where it's all happening. In fact, 100 the least emitting countries only produces 3% of carbon emission, the green one. The 10 largest emitters on the red band, they are actually responsible for about 68% of the carbon emission. And then the top 3 emitters, China, UK, US, and the European Union, they are responsible for about 46%. Again, I said it's not pointing finger, but you know why China is producing so much. Of course, they know the population, but the fact is, it's just not because of the population. They are the one manufacturing almost literally everything for the entire world. So they are cooking for us, cooking for the world, emitting carbon. This graph will do some justice because it's actually per capita. The carbon emission is divided by number of population persons in the country. So that gives some sense which country is really doing more carbon emission. The top, sorry for the illegibility here. I think the top countries are the Middle East countries. The reason why is obvious, because they are producing the oil. They have the biggest oil fields. So that's where the carbon emissions are happening the most in terms of per capita. So I don't want to dwell on the details, but I think this is for an idea for the viewers. And what's happening, we have looked at it, why it's happening, we looked at it. And we also want to see what are the efforts globally in terms of controlling this or mitigating this carbon emissions and global warming. So the effort started in late mid-90s. The 2 occasions, the Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement, are very significant. And this is where many countries come together with the UN to agree on something. Especially the Paris Agreement decided to put a temperature check to see whether all the countries can actually abide by it. And recently also a convention happened in 2021 in Glasgow to reinforce that, to set further direction on 2030. So to give a glimpse of what these efforts are and then what those measures are being set, on the thermometer, if you see, there is a green legend, and it goes yellow and orange and red. So there's an attempt by these countries and the UN to set a temperature level by 2100, what we can achieve, what we have to control the temperature by. So 1.5 degrees centigrade above the pre-industry average, which is the last century. But the fact is, in 2021, we have already reached 1.2. So this is a bit alarming. So if nothing happens, which is the blue color, there's a likely chance the temperature will go and hover around the red range. What it means actually is on the right-hand side chart. If we go to the right-hand side chart, it means the world will become inhabitable, and we will be fighting each other for food, for clean water, and more things. So there is a real problem coming our way. So many countries started actioning, and many organizations started actioning on what can be done. So there's an attempt as well to not only control the environmental issues, but also provide facilities for the people, or trying to remove the inequality in the people. So there's a blueprint aimed at the people and the planet, and for now and for the future. This is to guide the organizations, the countries to have their plans, so to plan their actions. So it talks about lifting poverty, it's talking about hunger, it's talking about good health, and it's talking about gender equality, many other things, including the environmental and ocean. So this framework is now generally being adapted by organizations to see how their actions are actually contributing to these goals. There are many initiatives you could do, an organization can do. So there's a good change is happening, but there is more to go. Coming to Singapore, I think Sounder has explained in detail. He's still a thunder on 2030 from me, so I'm not going to go in detail here, but try to explain it quickly. What Singapore is doing. In fact, he is talking about what SAA could contribute, but I'm going to give a perspective of what Singapore is doing actually. If you look at the picture, it's a bit busy, but I'm trying to go quickly on individual bullet points. They are building green buildings. Singapore is building green buildings for some time, and they would like to see the buildings are powered by renewable energy. And they want the government to lead, the public sector to lead the action, not like other countries, leave it to the private sector or person they are leading. And they are trying to set the energy here. And currently, about 95% of the electricity is being produced by natural gas in Singapore. And of course, more and more renewables are coming. But they would like to really change this going forward. And they would like to also do research on climate resilience, resilience, and including food security. There's a lot of research going on. I'm from an academic background. I'm working for an academic organizations. I understand what are the research activities are actually being done. So there's a lot of research, a lot of funding is being put in there. And of course, the economy have to now pivot on sustainability. Even a couple of days or even a month ago, I think the budget 2030 is underpinning the sustainability and digitalization as the drivers for going forward. And there will be many jobs being created in Singapore for sustainability. And carbon footprint, as I said earlier, they are going to make a lot more easier for everyone to understand carbon footprint, so that once you understand, you have ability to start taking action. So they are going to make it happen very soon. And they are very serious. Singapore is very serious. On the right-hand side, I have a few bullet points just to give a quick idea. They're actually focusing on the energy, carbon-intensive sectors very quickly. The maritime and aviation, and energy and chemicals. The energy is being used for maritime and aviation with the current fuels, but they are now trying to find alternate fuels. There are research going on alternate fuel at this point in time. And the Jurong Island, which we know is a petrochemical hub, is possibly will change to something else, sustainable energy and chemical park. They also have services sector coming up in the green economy, and a lot of institutes will be set up for verification, research, and clean solutions. And finance and new capabilities and skills also being developed, and allocated funds are allocated, resources are being allocated, and Singapore is very serious about it. Those are actually the plans, but I can give you some tangible actions what they have taken. They are building one of the biggest solar farms in the world. They're also putting up, Singapore is putting up solar farms on all the housing estates. And clean energy for cars, I think Sounder touched about it. I think after 2030, you can't buy a normal car in Singapore. You have to buy an electric car. The infrastructure, the charging points are being built very rapidly. And the water is one of the issues. Singapore is getting water from Malaysia and many other desalination and new water from the sewerage and catchment. But the desalination takes a lot of energy. So they are trying to look at the energy spent on desalination, trying to come up with a new solution to actually minimize the carbon footprint. And buildings, one of the emitters, 80% of the buildings, they would like to see green buildings in 2030, and they would like to go carbon neutral for 20 of its school buildings. Of course, the carbon tax, Singapore is famous for carrot and stick. The stick is coming for not the ordinary people or not the ordinary organizations, but the top 80% contributors for the carbon. So like petrochemical industries, the oil industry, oil and gas industries, and so on. So they will be paying big dollars in the coming years. They started with $5 per ton, but it's going to go to $50 to $80 by 2030. They mean business. So one last item is the real threat to Singapore. The PM of Singapore has spoken some time ago. The sea level could rise up to 1 meter by 2100. So they're allocating $100 billion to plan to safeguard Singapore. Interestingly, this plan is just not building sea walls around the coastal area. This is building islands, chain of islands around the island. What that means is this is going to act as a barrier for sea level rise. At the same time, if you see the gaps in between the islands, that is going to actually catch the fresh water. So they are actually killing two birds at once by stopping the seawater or mitigating the sea level rise and getting fresh water for the population. Some actions. I think this is the first world integrated waste and water treatment facility. The water treatment is actually going on, and waste treatment is also going on in Singapore. About 60% of waste is being recycled and 40% is being incinerated at this point in time. But when they incinerate, they just don't incinerate. They make use of the gas to heat up and the boilers and generate electricity. So this is going to be integrated, and this facility, once it's built, it will be self-sufficient in their electricity supply. This is very innovative, very bold plan, and this is coming up in their 2030 plan. So I talk about the bigger plans and talk about now I want to be specifically on the buildings which is close to the civil engineer's heart. The left-hand side graph will give you an idea about in a building life, which phase is actually emitting a lot of carbon. If you look at this, phase 1 and phase 2 is the raw material and transportation. Phase 3 is construction. Phase 4 is the operation and maintenance. And phase 5 is demolition. So this gray, phase 4, is actually the largest carbon emissions phase. The reason being, we are going to build the building shortly, and we are going to demolish it shortly, but we are going to be living there for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. So the operational carbon is much more than the other carbons in other phases. So it's more than 80%. But knowing Singapore, they're also looking at the embodied carbon, and they also started research on this now and how to cut even that embodied carbon in the building. And this slide will give you a glimpse of how Singapore control emissions in its buildings. I'm not going to go into much details here, but the left-hand side graph, I just want you to pay attention to the years here. It's all started very recently in 2005, but you see how often, how dynamic the country is to adjust its parameters. And every 2 years, 3 years, it's been adjusting and then raising the bar on the energy requirements. The right-hand side is giving a glimpse of what are the parameters looked at in green building. It's just not energy, it's also the air quality, the greenery provisions, material usage, and water efficiency. So if you see the rightmost column, that's where I think majority of the organizations actually expect it to be in. And in SMU, we try to focus our buildings to go over to this right hand to be most efficient. So we talk about many things. We talk about the building, what the government is doing, and what can we do with the building to drive net zero. When I say net zero, is net energy consumption. So typically, there are few stages, few ways, few areas we could do. While designing, we look at the passive strategies. The sunlight is good, but it's not good enough. Not everything's good. So we have to plan the shading accordingly. But at the same time, we also have to use the daylighting wisely. We do not want to completely cut off the building and then live in artificial lighting. So the building has to be designed to optimize the natural resources, especially the sunlight. And natural ventilation. Nowadays, buildings are not 100% air conditioned in Singapore. Majority of the percent is made to design with the natural ventilation. And the facade is playing a big part with the glazing, the cooling component used in the glazing is helping the building to maintain a better indoor environment or cool temperature. Otherwise, you have to spend a lot of money on air conditioning. Of course, after the passive strategies, we have to do some active strategies by air conditioning, mechanical ventilation, and lighting strategies. How do we do that with the efficient way of equipments and controls? And building automation, I think that is actually evolving with a lot of smart controls. And even if you look at the plug load management, we will be wondering why you have to monitor the plug load. It's just a simple analogy. People don't understand, people don't appreciate the amount of leakage happening through the plug. For example, when we in our house, I'm sure we have TVs. When we finish, we switch off TVs. In some houses, TVs are running 24/7. That's okay. But when we switch off the TV, we don't actually switch off the socket, the plug, which means we are still using electricity. If one equipment can actually leak so much, and then imagine number of equipments we have in our house. So we started monitoring this in SMU. We have a mechanism to monitor this and then trying to see how to actually switch off when it is not in use. So this is one of the reasons why we can actually minimize the waste. And renewable energy, without that, because the building have to produce carbon. So you can only minimize so much. So, but how do you compensate? How do you become carbon neutral? You have to produce energy within your building. So one of the energy possibility in Singapore is the solar. We don't have wind or the windmill, and we don't have the hydro, the renewable energy in Singapore as much as in other countries. So solar is one of the main thing in Singapore. So these are the strategies to get to net zero. And from there, I would like to give you some glimpse of what SMU's journey is. I'm going to just run through this a little bit quickly. The journey started a decade ago by my predecessors and actually the team. Not only looking at the energy, what we spoke enormously, we also look at water, health, and the waste, and also the built environment, and also pedagogy. I think I'm not going to touch about pedagogy today because that's not my cup of tea. I'm going to only live with the environmental part of it. Of course, there are many phases in SMU's approach. We started improving something. We started adopting green mark, and we raised our bar with new developments, and we also pursue some new standards with new technologies. We have obtained some certification standards, which guided us to pursue and raise our bar further. This is one of the buildings which we built in 2017 for law school. This is actually a green mark platinum building. It has many features which I will show you in a while on the next slide. And this is completely LED building. So, right, LED saves a lot of energy compared to the other elements. So it won numerous awards locally and regionally. And some of the strategies which the building we have used to design is stipulated here. Again, it's not conducive to go through every bit of it, but you see it involves the passive designs, the active passive strategies and active strategies. They show you something here on the first picture here. This is an atrium, and then you have 2-level basement. These are all actually naturally ventilated, and then you can see the temperature graph shows it's cold. Within the building, there is a natural ventilated area, which actually is very conducive for our learners. And the library is full of glass. It gives daylighting, and then it requires minimal artificial lighting. So there are many strategies which help us to get this building to Green Mark Platinum. The other building which I would like to give you a quick idea about is the Prince of Street Residences. This is pre-HDB. People living in Singapore may understand what is pre-HDB. In 1960s, they were not HDB. They called SIT, Singapore Institute of Technology, I think. So during that era, 1960s, this building was built. So it was leased by SMU, and then in 2018, we had an opportunity to renovate it. So we gave ourselves a challenge. Why can't we make this building a green building? But the challenge is being raised, Green Mark Platinum. Finally, the team managed to achieve. One of the reasons it can achieve Green Mark Platinum, I will show you in the next slide, in a couple of slides later, the air conditioning system. Of course, it's also a smart controls being used in the building to really control the wastage in that building on electricity. It involves a lot of active and passive strategies, and it has actually served the purpose, and the students are living happily there. And this building is the new baby and SMU's kit. I think it's called SMU Connection. Apart from the strategies what we have adapted, this building also uses timber as a sustainable material, which is coming from sustainable forests. It's called CLT, cross laminated timber. So we use that. I will show you a picture slightly in the next slide. We also have used the MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing in modular way. And we have used the DFME, people in Singapore understand this one, designed for manufacturing assembly. Most of these buildings are actually assembled outside, manufactured outside and brought to the site and assembled in a quick time. So this is some glimpse of the MET slab, and this is the steel structure, and it's like placing Lego blocks one on another. The slabs are constructed very quickly, and for which we have received an award from the for its achievement as a Green Mark Zero Energy Award. And I was talking about air conditioning, how we actually got net zero there. Several strategies, but this is very important. Maybe I would like to spend a minute here. The mechanical engineers may understand better than me as well. For any air conditioning, there are two elements in it. One is water, another one is air. So typically, the hot water is the water coming out of the chiller plant is going to the cooling tower. It gets cold, and then come back to the chiller to get more cold in the chiller plant. And the chiller plant supply the chill water into the air handling unit within the in the box. The air handling unit we call shortly AHUs, right? This is actually typically placed on every floor plate of the building, and then that is the area where we do not want to go because it's noisy. It sucks in air and generates a lot of noise, and it takes a lot of energy to mix or get the air cold and then push all the way to the usable places. So what this technology has done is we have removed this entire air handling unit from this system. What it means is whatever energy the air handling takes, whatever the space it takes, whatever the maintenance takes, all gone by the way. So this particular system, we call that EPDC. We put E here because it's enhanced. The original PDC system has to be enhanced to make it work. This is not a new technology. This is the PDC is been there, but only thing it is not being commercially used in the way it's been used in our building, for which we have spent about 3 years to doing pilot studies in small spaces and detailing it and fine-tuning the PDC coils and fine-tuning the insulation. And finally, we have installed in the previous project, which I mentioned in the residences, and then we learned some lesson from there, and then we again fine-tuned it and then installed in the SMU connection. So this has actually achieved a lot of attention from the industry, and we have good funding from the construction authority. At the same time, now researchers are coming down to the campus to research how we can be actually adapted, commercialized elsewhere. The two other things which we have used in that building, Net Zero Energy building, is the MET. This is a little bit technical. This is the CLT cross-laminated timber we use for about 71%. It saved manpower about 30%, and construction time is reduced 37. If I say in months, probably you'll appreciate better. Originally, we planned for 24 months of construction, 24. That's already a short period to do a building in the city center where you don't have real access to do things, and all the three sites are roads. But this technology, including other technologies, helped us to reduce this time to complete it in shorter time. Finally, the team managed to complete it in 15 months, 15, against 24. You can understand the benefit it brings. We could actually roll out plans, roll out programs for the university. The students get to use it early, so it's enormous advantages. Of course, we need to pay some premium for it, but you get return in a different way. And this is completely environmental friendly. It's coming from renewable source. And it also helps on safety and quality of the building. The right-hand side is the structure hanging on. This is actually a mock-up. Hanging on the side is actually the modularized MEP, where we actually prefabricated everything back in the factory and brought to site to install. So I'm going to run through very quickly some of the slides. We also installed solar farm. It's one of the largest solar farm in city center. We are producing about 8.8. We are aiming to have 10% soon of our energy consumption. And we are building also another building, and which is aimed to be a super low energy building, Green Mark Platinum, in this year. And this graph will interest everyone, I believe. This is something tangible. This is the last slide. To give you an idea about the action so far, what it makes SMU, or how it benefits SMU. The green graph, starting from 2006, this is the population. This is our student population, our staff population. It's starting from about 6,000, reaching around 12, 13,000. So almost double. Green going away. But the red curve is the energy curve, what we spent. Despite we build new buildings, actually, you can see a bump here. This is where we build a new building. Despite building new buildings, adding new areas, the energy spent is actually coming down. So in 2018, we actually have a target of achieving 40%, which we achieved by 2020. In fact, thanks to COVID, we pushed that 55%. In fact, last year, we saved a bit of money as well because of the, of course, we spent a lot more money in managing COVID, but this is one of the area it's savior for not only SMU, for any organization. And right-hand side, a similar story for the water as well. So with this, it's compelling for us to do action on sustainability. You may be paying a little bit of an upfront price, but actually you will eventually reap the benefit going forward. So with all this effort, I think a lot of accolades achieved by SMU. So I'm actually having 2 more slides to show you before I end my presentation on opportunity, on sustainabilities. As I said, there are problems, there are opportunities. We know the oil and gas industry is the industry, it employs a lot of manpower and resources. But now this graph shows a shift is happening from oil and gas to sustainability or renewable jobs. Not only the transition is happening from industry, even the new hires actually being hired on this sustainability areas. I can tell from the background of the academic things, the institutions are ramping up the sustainability courses enormously. So there's going to be a lot of jobs becoming available and a lot of scope for young engineers, even transition team to take on. And this will give you an idea about what kind of sectors on the right-hand side and what are the kind of jobs actually going to be evolving in the coming year, or already evolved in the year 2021 also. So with that, I believe I have come to an end of the presentation. I hope this is useful. I just finished with this quote. the astronaut says this: we came all this way to explore the moon, and the most important thing is that we discovered the Earth. That's what he said. But I think we still have to discover the Earth. We all have to discover the Earth, and there's much more to discover on our Earth. So thank you very much. I leave this slide to ponder it, but I think the action is not, as Sundar said earlier, it's just not one. I think it's a collective action required. So I believe if this presentation has given you some awareness, some inspiration, some curiosity on the subject, I think I'm thankful to your listening, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sundar. It's a great session with lots of insights such as climate change, global warming, industry revolution, global food production, Singapore Green Plan 2030. There are a lot of, so much of insightful presentation. Thank you so much for your excellent and insightful sharing once again. Okay, guys, as mentioned earlier, it's our time to raise our questions, to shoot our questions to the speaker. So, please.
Hi, Sundar, can I talk?
Sorry?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Let me brief. Give me 1 more minute.
Okay.
So maybe I'll explain that once again. Whoever would like to ask question, please raise your hand. So we will connect to the speaker directly. You will be. You have to unmute and interact with the speaker. Those who would like to raise your question through us, please type your question through the chat box. We will act on behalf of you. Maybe since it's very interesting, I want to be the first question. That's the reason for my holding. So I'll take the
Go ahead.
the climate change. Yeah, let me ask that. Let me raise it and let me start that. The climate change is a very serious issue. I saw that insightful information in the presentation. Needs some urgent action and immediate action as well. So what do you think will be the most and important and immediate action behind it, or we need to attention?
May I just interject? Sorry.
Sir,
Before we start the Q&A, can we have a photo session? Because everybody is very enthusiastic. So we can, if we can turn on the camera for a minute. So before we start the Q&A session, let's be energetic. Show your faces. Let's click for a moment, and then we can start the Q&A session. And then let's take it further. Thank you, everyone. Swarna, probably you can help taking the photos and then let us know, because I think you have to go page by page. So let us know one.
Thanks, Sundar, for asking everyone to turn on. I could see smiley faces. Nice to see many friends after a long time. And can see SRS here, and can see Kiru here.
That is the energy for the speaker, right? To see the faces.
Thank you. Thank you, Seth. I didn't realize you are joining as well.
Everyone can turn on the cameras. It will be good. I still see some haven't turned on your cameras.
Yeah, just for a minute, please turn on your camera if you're in a position to turn on. We have your shirt on, probably.
One of my friends say to watch online session, he say mute audio, mute video, and then go to sleep. So probably.
Zoom impact, COVID impact.
Yeah. Nice to see senior members have joined. Chidambaram, Mr. Veera Rachel. Thank you so much, sir, for joining.
Ready? I'll take a snap now. It will take a couple of minutes since I need to go by pages. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
செந்தில் அந்த
Thank you,
கொஸ்டின்
thank
முடிஞ்ச
you,
கொஸ்டின்
everyone.
ஆன்சர் செந்தில் கொஸ்டின் ஆன்சர் முடிஞ்ச உடனே அந்த காம்ப்ளிமெண்டரி சாட் பாக்ஸ் இதெல்லாம் கொஞ்சம் சொல்லிருங்க. சாட் பாக்ஸ்ல உள்ள காம்ப்ளிமெண்ட்லாம் சொல்லிருங்க கொஞ்சம், அது ஒரு நல்லா இருக்கும்.
கண்டிப்பா.
கொஸ்டின் ஆன்சர் முடிஞ்ச உடனே before what of.
So yeah, as requested earlier, I'll be the first person to raise this question. So climate change is very serious issue, and needs some
We can't hear you. Can everyone hear Sundar?
attention. So what do you think will be am I audible?
No, not audible. Repeat.
Now it's looking.
It's okay, Sandil. I understand your question earlier. I think you talk about what is the most important action we can take.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So thanks for the question. Actually,
Immediate action. Yes.
okay. Thanks, Sandil. Thank you. In fact, Sounder, when he presented his launching initiatives, he actually briefed something in his slide what we can do as an association or individual. So, but if you ask me, the most important thing is first thing first, awareness on sustainability and influencing our family, our friends on thinking about sustainability. That's the best thing you can actually do straight away. Secondly, the energy drivers or electricity, the transport, and the food. So whatever possible actions, even smaller things we take, I think it contributes towards carbon emission reduction. So if you think about electricity, there are many small actions we can take. If you look around the house, we do not know how many TVs we have, how many TVs are actually running, when we are not watching, how many AC is running when we are not there. So minimize the wastage. We can use, not a problem, but try to minimize the wastage when it's not being used. So try to remember this one word, if you can, switch off. I think mentally switch off will also help for us many times, but switch off anything not being used. That one thing I think will actually save a lot of energy, a lot of resources for the future. Of course, when you do travel, if you can use public transport wherever it's available, or you don't travel at all by car, I don't have, some of my friends may have one. So if they're thinking about why they want to have so many cars, they can take action, right? So there could be many actions can taken on energy and transport. Of course, the food. We know we are wasting food a lot, over ordering, and especially whenever நம்ம தமிழ்ல ஒரு பழக்கம் உண்டல்ல, யாரையும் கூப்பிட்டோம்னா பத்தாம போயிடக்கூடாது, நிறைய செய்வோம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அந்த நிறைய செஞ்சுட்டு வந்து எங்க போகுது, most of it actually going to குப்பை. So I think some philosophy what we are following may need to be questioned. Nothing wrong in one sense, but I think really wrong in a sustainability sense. So I think one has to understand first, there's something on sustainability which I can contribute. So think about our practices, our way of doing things, and try to alter a bit so that it will help. Thank you so much, Sandil.
Thank you so much. So what I take is sustainability starts from individual and from the family. Yeah.
You're right. I think you can take the government, you can take the companies, you can take the people if you want to really think about these three ways. Government can do many things, but we cannot just rely on government to do everything for us. Similarly, companies can do many things, but again, it's not good enough. The individuals are actually going to make the big difference because we are the consumers of the resources. If the consumer make a difference, the producers will have to make the difference. So I think in the ecosystem, I think we play a bigger role. Yes, thank you.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I would like to request Mr. Nedu to raise his question.
Thank you, Sendil. Thanks, Sundar. Appreciate for choosing this topic first. Actually, most of us have some knowledge on this sustainability, but it is very necessary to keep reminding people about this sustainability. Otherwise, as you said, right, I used to off the TV, not the switch, and follow-up action to be done by my wife. But now I learned to put off the switch also. Okay. Anyway, before I start my question, I take this opportunity to welcome our overseas friends. Mr. Aruchalun has joined from Chidambaram, Gopi, Balamurugan, and then Kiru, SRS, all these people from overseas. So welcome to this session also again. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, as you put in the slide, the developed countries have done enough damage to the nature and then climate change, everything. Okay, they still continue. As you said again, and it is the responsibility of the individuals as well as the companies to practice, to get into the good practice. Okay, the problem is the developing countries, and there are many underdeveloped countries. Okay, the developing countries still use the coal or oil and gas, and they have to convert to this so-called electrical energy or whatever it is, whatever the conversion we have to do, right? So we have to do it, but at what price? Can the developed countries and the underdeveloped countries, by switching over to the new technology of this kind of using the electrical energy and other kind of sustainability matters, can they develop their economy, or how much does it cost for them? Can they compete with the developed countries like China, United States, and European Union? Of course, they, like European Union, they are taking more action than other countries, if I'm not wrong. But like countries like China and India, it's going to be a very long way. Even like, for example, I still remember 30 years before, when the Metro Dam opens up, when the water reaches my village, the water is very clean, it's blue color. But now, when we open the Metro Dam, the water is black in color. When you go to the sea, everywhere, all the blue has gone. Now it's all is, that kind of black color. So in this kind of situation, for the developed and underdeveloped countries, how their economy will be affected in future, when they convert to these sustainability matters. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Indu. It's a complex issue, right? We all know the sustainability, if it is easy to solve, by now it's been solved. It needs consistent effort from human companies and governments. Again, each government has its own challenges. Singapore having fortunate enough to have a stable government and a long vision, it can actually put up actions very quickly. Some countries do not even have time to think about sustainability. We talk to them what it is, because they're actually trying to get food for their people. They don't get clean water for their people. They're not even able to think about this in a way what the other developed nation thinks. So whether they are going to be on equal platform to do things, I don't know, but I'm personally doubtful, because they may not be equipped to come with a new technology and putting it in place. But I will say the other way around. The developed countries are responsible to help the underdeveloped countries to develop those technologies in their place to make they also live together. So the sustainability is about living together, embracing ourselves, right? So if they're going to focus only on one P, which is the economy, the profit, right? The economy, that's not going to help. So they have to look at globally. So the mindset have to change, but you know what's happening in the world, even what is going on at this age of times. So different countries having different challenges. Not all the countries maybe, practically it's not possible every country will be on the same level. But people, the governments like Singapore, I think when they found the solution, I don't think they were going to use it only for themselves. They will make it available for people to use, of course, with the money, with the support and all this. And I'm sure that similarly other countries will do that. So one has to wait and see how the transition is going to happen. But the transition have to happen. That's all our wish. Thanks for the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question as well as the answer. It's a very explained. And I would request Mr. Sethu Narayanan to raise his question. Sir, please raise your question.
Yeah. Hello.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
sir.
Right. Okay. Your presentation was very good. Especially you told about your buildings, what you have constructed for SMU with all these new challenges, new green building efforts. That is really appreciable.
Thank you, sir.
Then regarding what is the islands you are talking about, the sea level rise. Singapore government is now doing one initial project at Pulau Tekong. It is called polder type of construction, POLDER. It is done by one Netherlands Boskalis company. It's already halfway done. I am the marine advisor for the project. For last 4 years, I'm working on it. Then next thing is this polder is at a higher level island. Then inside can be water or a lower level thing. That's the thing. Then the second thing is the data centers. Actually, Singapore government stopped all the new licenses for data centers 2-3 years back. Now, because all the projects are going to other countries, it is now coming back again and giving licenses. Therefore, that is why this economy also playing part in it. Okay, then that's all. No question. It was very interesting. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. It is really an honor to have your views because you are directly involved in that project. I think nice to know. I probably will get more details from you later on how it goes. But thank you very much for coming and thank you very much for sharing as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you both. And who is next? Whoever wish to interact with the speaker, please raise your hand and you will be directly connected. Chandrasekharan Aravindan, please unmute and raise your question. Chandru, please unmute, open the cam. Yeah, please go ahead.
Anna Sundarana, thanks for the excellent presentation. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Anna, you have involved lots of green buildings development or construction. What about cost, Anna? Is it cost effective? Or if it is more cost, how you justifying this?
Okay, I think this is a very important question because I think there is always reluctance for people to embark on any change, right? Because they don't know what it is. But if you look at green mark buildings, in fact, it's also available in PCA website, I think, how much it actually costs more than a normal building. That is talking about the initial investment. It's about a few percentages, depending on what level of green mark you actually want to achieve. But if you think about the slide which I have shown you, where you spend most energy is operational space, right? So the 50, 40, 60, 70 years of the building life in Singapore, actually even 100 years sometimes. So the operational cost is going to be much lesser than a normal building. So for any sustainability initiative, it might need a bit of a premium at the beginning, but it will pay off. We call it ROI, right? The return on investment. You will get it somewhere depending on your investment. So in a net, it's a cost-effective solution to go for a green building. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you both again. And anybody else would like to raise?
Sendil, there's a question in the chat box. There
are some questions in the chat box.
We will come back, and I would give preference to those who want to raise the question directly. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, SRS from Australia. Please go ahead, sir. Please unmute yourself and interact with the speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Sundar, for the wonderful presentation. It was very informative. It's not a question. I just want to make a comment that, there was a question about, what we can do ourselves, as a personal level. But I just want to explain what I'm doing in the personal. But I have a luxury of certain things that you may not have in Singapore. One of the things is I have solar panel at home, about 5 kilowatt, and then I do rainwater harvesting, and then I use that for my gardening. And then I recycle all the food waste and then use it in my garden, organic garden. And then I have an aquaponic system where I grow fish, including edible fish, and then use the water to cultivate vegetables. And in fact, I have about 15 different varieties of fruits in my backyard, and then all different varieties of vegetable that I can use depending on the season. So basically, I'm recycling whatever I can and reproduce food and recycle waste. Basically, I don't throw away any organic waste at all. Only waste I send it to recycle is only the plastic and other things. So this is only a comment. Back to you.
Oh, it's fantastic to know, SRS. I don't think if I think every one of us can do what you are doing, I think that's already a great way to go. Thank you very much for sharing. I know you have the privilege in Australia to do this. Some of it we may not be able to do, but that is not really stopping us in doing what we can do in Singapore. But really thanks for sharing. I think it's really inspirational that as an individual, what you can do. And I see some of these questions asking what you can do, but I think you have given great examples as individuals you can do. So thank you very much, SRS, and thanks for joining us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. SRS, for joining us and sharing your valuable thoughts with us, and I hope it's adding a lot of value to us as well. So the next question will be from Ilangovan Parthiban. What are all the suggestions from us for us as an individual to take some possible actions to mitigate the climate change? You want me to repeat?
I think we got a chat about this. In fact, your question, I partly answered it, and then now I think SRS also have answered it in a slightly different way. Yeah, I think there are many actions what we can do. First of all, we reduce the waste on anything. As I was mentioned, the food waste is being recycled. In Singapore, you have a possibility to do that maybe in the future. But as a start, you may want to actually think about using what you need and ordering what you need. So reduce the energy, reduce water, reduce food. You just reduce first. Then you try to minimize your consumption of unnecessary things. For example, even, I don't know, if somebody want to go and look at their cupboard, right, wardrobe, how many sets of clothes you have? Do you really need all this? And just asking questions in the way we live. So everyone have a different way of living. Everyone have a different way of doing things. So there may be a lot of opportunity to reduce. So if you focus on reduce already, you're actually bringing down so much. So I think, and I can maybe give a guidance to Parthiban. I think, as I mentioned, you can measure your carbon footprint in one of the website, right? What is my carbon footprint.com SG, I think. So you go there, and then if you go and look at it, there are broad levels of carbon calculator. So when you do a calculation on what actually the way you live, honestly, that will give you a number, how many tons of CO2 you are actually generating every year. And then you can compare with what Singapore average is and what world average is. Then what actually you need to detect. So they also give, I think, 30 ideas there to reduce carbon as an individual. So there's a possibility to understand a little bit more better there. And most of the 30 may be applicable for you, or some of them may be applicable for you, then you can plan your actions. So end of the day, again, let us not stop here in having this talk. I think we have to, I believe this has given some curiosity to understand the topic a little bit more. So please spend some time with your handphone on your palm. You can research. You will find answers along the way, and that will reinforce your action. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Mr. Parthiban. And the next question from Nedambur Karthikeyan.
Okay, I can read the question, Senthil. What it says is talking about carbon credits, right?
Correct.
It says, what is your take on carbon credits to offset carbon emissions? Do you think this carbon credit offers a way for organizations to cheat legally and hence detrimental to carbon goals. I think when he asked the question, I'm sure he understands what's going on in the world, right? So people call this a little bit of a greenwashing, right? So the companies trying to post they're acting on it, but they are not really acting on it. But if you think about carbon credit, in a way, at some point in time, you may not be able to avoid this. For example, in Singapore, if an organization need to function, it generates carbon somehow by its activities. It can only take action to reduce so much in their emission. And there's always some residual carbon, which you cannot offset. Why I'm saying this, in other countries, there may be a possibility the organization can go and buy forests and then fund in a solar farm, fund in a windmill. But here in Singapore, locally, you cannot do. So and some of them may not have the ability to go and buy forests, buy windmills, buy other means of renewable energy. So they have to depend on a provider of carbon credit. At this point in time, the way I understand, it is not a matured market. And that's why if you see Singapore, they are actually talking about quality carbon credits trading in their 2030 plan. So there may be more regulations come up in the future to control the deviations happening currently. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for the explanation, and it's very clear. And next question will be from Shashank Bala. Would sustainable finance be a part of permanent solution for the future?
I have to be honest here, Shashank. I'm not a particularly expert on finance. But I can say what's happening is in Singapore, in fact, in SMU, I think there is a research going on between SMU and Imperial College of London, and they're setting up an institute, a Green Finance Center. They're going to research on many things. But this means something, but what it means exactly and how it's going to give benefits, I'm not actually the expert on this. I'm sorry, I couldn't answer the question fully. I hope you appreciate that.
Sorry, he also adding something. Is there any certification programs and career opportunities in this? Can you please advise on that? This
Definitely.
Also from, yeah.
Definitely. As I said earlier, certainly at my last end of presentation, the universities are actually rolling out programs on sustainability, and they're doing it fast and furious. Just watch the space, and I believe already there are programs on sustainable finance, and you could get any level of certification. I believe now it may be a certificate course now, but going forward there could be more coming up. But definitely the education sector is taking this seriously because they know this is the future. So they are going to develop the graduates, the young minds, to serve the industry in the future with this sustainable background on all the services, all the sectors. So there's plenty coming. Of course, we can do some research. You will understand the courses being already introduced by local institutions. There's plenty.
Thank you, sir. I think Shashank, I think hope is well. And next question from Karu. He's also adding a lot of appreciation. Once again, thanks once again for your fantastic session. I think message from Karu. We know tree planting helps to migrate sustainability matter. Could you please tell us how exactly it helps? I mean, tree planting, and please justify as well.
Okay, sustainability is very difficult to justify everything, but I think we know trees are very important for the ecosystem to work. And nowadays, you see the individuals of the organizations are actually trying to plant more trees and becoming a movement. And I think Singapore, I think there's an aim to plant 1 million trees at a certain time. So this is actually recreating the forest, basically. why we need to, the benefit of trees, right? Is actually absorbs carbon. Whatever emission we are actually trying to emit, and it actually helps to absorb. Not only the tree absorbs, the ocean, the land, the soil, everything absorbs the carbon as well. But the trees, the one word we can create, we can't create another ocean, the land, so we are trying to plant more trees. That's the reason why we are planting trees. So, but if it is done in a meaningful way, okay, trees is one thing, but what we need is forests, right? In order to create a forest, I believe it's not going to take number of days, number of years. It's probably take 50, 60, 70 years to build the forest. But even we build the forest, the trees may be there, but may not be, the ecosystem may not be there. That may take many hundred years to build the ecosystem within the forest. So tree is good. If we can plant trees, that's going to really help to absorb some of the emissions, what we are emitting. There are calculations, right? How much carbon a tree can actually absorb. It's all calculation because every tree is different. There are different species that attract different carbon, different level of trees, age level, attracts the different carbon level. So if you think about, say, a tree absorb 40 trees required for a ton, for example. There are 20, 30, 40, 50. There are numbers in, if you go on, say, 40 to absorb 1 ton of carbon. But as a human now, based on Singapore standards, we are actually emitting 9 tons. So just multiply the 9 by 40. So you need about 360 trees to actually, to compensate your carbon. And it has to be there and matured. And so just planting the trees is not going to help, but we need to grow the trees to its maturity, make sure it is actually growing, make sure the movement is actually growing. So tree planting is good, but it has to be done in a meaningful way. That's my answer. I hope Karul is satisfied with my answer. Thanks, Karul.
Yes, thank you, Sundar. Thank you very much.
I too trust the same. Hope Karu fulfilled with the answer.
Sir,
For both. The next question will be from Mr. Anberhan, 1980. Also, he's the subcommittee head of the knowledge sharing session. He would like to raise his question. Sir, please go ahead.
எனக்கு திடீர்னு அது ஞாபகம் வந்துச்சு அதை கேட்கலான்னு பார்த்தேன்.
Yeah, please unmute yourself and also on your
கேக்குதா?
Yeah, on your cam, please.
ஓகே.
Thank you.
என்னன்னா நம்ம சிங்கப்பூர்ல வந்து ஹாரிசான்டலி we are harvesting solar energy through photovoltaic cell, whatever it is. Is it possible to vertically use a solar panel on the buildings and all? There will be many fold of area available to abstract solar energy so that we can make totally sustainable energy system. Just your comment.
Thanks for the question. I think I know you will think very innovatively. Actually, in some part of this Asia, I can't remember the country, there's already a building being developed with vertical facade having solar harvesting. But the problem with that is efficiency. Right? The solar path, it goes east-west generally, and the solar panels have to be in a position to actually gain the solar energy to the maximum period. But if you're going to put, if you're going to put on the level field, sometimes you can see it's also done in the inclined manner on certain season, and then it is inclined the other way on a certain season. So to follow the solar path to maximize the harvesting, we're going to put it on a vertical base. In fact, I have tried to explore that with my consultants to do that in the new building. But I didn't put it up because the study didn't show the optimal yield for the money what we are able to spend. So what it means, we're going to put on the east facing when the sun reaches the mid-morning, the sun is not going to, the solar panel is not going to produce any energy. So the money you're spending for new solar panels nowadays, if you put it on the top, it will give you an ROI for about, say, 10 years. Within 10 years, you can actually take away the money of the solar panels, and then remaining years is going to give you energy free of cost. In Singapore, I think if you go to the market, they will give you 25-year guarantee. So if you think about 25-year life cycle, the 10 years you need to pay the money, the remaining 15 years, you are going to get free electricity if you're going to put it flat. But if you're going to put vertically, that's not going to be the case. So you will not achieve your ROI in the time. So it may not be the wise investment. That's why the countries are not actually adopting it, in my understanding. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the reason we are identify Anbu Anna as the head of this knowledge sharing.
You're muted, Senthil.
Oh, sorry about it. So that's the reason we always look or identify Anbu Anna as our knowledge sharing sessions head. He always look the different, each and every perspective or problem in a different angle. Anyway, thank you so much for your question, Anna. Thanks a lot. And the next question from Mr. Kiru, our next secretary.
Question கிடையாது சார் வந்து ஒரு interesting and very impressive presentation சார் என்ன பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இது வந்து in terms of delivery, in terms of the PowerPoint presentation, although it is existing new and emerging topic, அதை வந்து சார் வந்து எக்ஸலண்டா டெலிவர் பண்ணார். தேங்க்ஸ் சுந்தர் சார். அப்புறம் எனக்கு எப்பயுமே ஒரு 2-3 பிரசிடென்ட் வந்துடுறாங்க. எப்போ பார்த்தாலும் சுந்தர் சார் இருக்காரு இங்க பிரசிடென்ட், இங்க ஒரு பிரசிடென்ட் இருக்கிறாரு. எப்போ பார்த்தாலும் இவங்க தான் எனக்கு மெசேஜ் அனுப்புறாங்க, இந்த மாதிரி சஸ்டைனபிலிட்டி செமினார் இருக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டு. எனக்கு தெரியாத மாதிரி சார் என்ன எழுப்பி விட்டாங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு நான் காலையில இருந்து அவருக்கு மெசேஜ் போட்டேன், சார் வாங்க ஆரம்பிச்சிருச்சு அப்படின்னு. இல்லை நான் யோகாவில் இருக்கிறேன், எனக்கு லிங்க் அனுப்பி விடு, நான் அப்புறம் பார்த்துட்டு சொல்றேன்னு சொன்னாரு. ஸோ இது அவைலபிலிட்டி இருக்கா சார்?
Sorry, can you have a question?
யூடியூப்ல அதாவது சார் இப்ப காலையில வந்து எனக்கு இங்க இருக்கிற பிரசிடென்ட் வந்து எனக்கு அனுப்புறாரு, சஸ்டைனபிலிட்டி செமினார் இருக்கு அப்படின்னு நேத்து அனுப்புனாரு. நான் காலையில எழுந்து அவரை எழுப்பி விட்டேன், எழுந்துருங்க செமினார் அட்டன் பண்ணுங்கன்ட்டு. அவர் நான் யோகாவில் இருக்கிறேன், காலையில் எனக்கு லிங்க் அனுப்பினார்.
Okay, I think I'm very only happy to share the slides. I think the team will organize a link for the slides as well as I think the presentation in the coming days. I think. YouTube
we will upload the same session by tonight or tomorrow.
Excellent.
And also anytime we can connect each other. I mean, we will also share this speaker's email ID and contact number. Probably he can connect privately as well. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Right, okay. Last
guiding us.
Enna special na wherever Annamalayan goes, our network follows.
Connecting.
அதான் கனெக்டிவிட்டி எண்ட் ஆஃப் த டே. அதுதானே நம்ம எல்லாத்தையும் சேர்ந்து கனெக்ட் கொலாபரேட் அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருக்கோம்.
சூப்பரா இருக்கு, தாடி எல்லாம் நல்லா இருக்கு.
இல்ல அங்க
நேரா வந்துறேன் சார்,
அந்த லொகேஷனோட அட்டையர் சூஸ் பண்ணிப்பாரு, அதுதான் நல்லா இருக்கு. Thank you all. And
well, a small clarification, Senthil.
Please go ahead, sir.
Sundar, okay. I saw the last slide about the job opportunities. There was a small dot about the geotechnical opportunities. How does it is related with the sustainability, the geotechnical job opportunities?
Okay, that slide is giving sector based, I think, if I'm not wrong. Which sector actually the opportunities are arising. I'm trying to answer this question because I don't know the answer. I believe the way we do the geotechnical method of working, the way we actually conduct it, there could be ways to improve it using sustainable methods. For example, I think I'm sure you know better than you're actually running the show, and where you spend more energy to do the business, there could be an opportunity to see a difference. And again, the fuel itself, right? I think in currently being, I don't know, some of you may know, some of you may not know. Singapore is spending a big money to invest in studying hydrogen. Hydrogen is an alternate fuel. So this could come as a possible solution to run things in the future. So we don't know what would be the alternate fuel Singapore is going to play with, we are going to come up with. So end of the day, the sectors, every sector will have to change in a way, but I don't know exactly how the geotechnical sector will change. But happy to have any views from the audience here. It's all
Probably is the construction method and use of new construction materials.
No, can I answer this question?
Please.
Actually, there is a recently drilling of thermal energy from geothermal energy, extracting geothermal energy. There is an advantage. There is advanced research. They use a lot of tools to drill the hole for 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. The tools are not enough to, they are not able to withstand the heat developed in this one. Now they are using the laser to drill the hole. They can go even reach up to 20 kilometers or something like that. Now they are going to take a enormous energy from the geothermal area and use it for this one. The research is going on. You can Google it. It is one of the area, maybe for education also. Research is going on for drilling the hole with laser, and they have achieved almost 20 kilometers, I think. So it is going to be a future enormous energy potential below this one. We don't know what is going to happen to the earth. If you cool the earth below 20 kilometers, what will happen to the earth, we don't know, but the research is there.
Thank you, Anna. So, anybody else would like to ask anything? If you want to raise a question, please go ahead, and we are running out of time. And before waiting for the final question, I would like to read out all the appreciation from participants. So it would take a couple of minutes, but I would like to read all those. Appreciation from SRS Australia. Thank you for your wonderful presentation, Sundar. This topic is close to my heart, and I am practicing sustainability to a personal level. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments. And Krishnamurthy, Mr. Krishnamurthy, excellent presentation about sustainability. Thank you. And Mr. Veera Arutchelvan, the comment is excellent, Sundar. Very informative and nice presentation. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your comments. And Mr. S.D. Gobi, amazing session, Sundar. You had it all going and walked your talk. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Anbu, sir, for the initiative. Very well done. Sir, thank you so much for all your comments and support. Comments from Prabharan is excellent info and insight. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabharan. Again, from Mr. Kiru, wonderful and useful, great presentation by Sundar. Thank you, Mr. Kiru. From Mr. Chidambaram, very good presentation, Sundar. Thank you, sir. Mr. Balamurugan from 93, great presentation, and thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for your wonderful comments, and these kind of comments will add more value to the presentation and give a lot of energy for us to move forward. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Sendil, I have just a minute. Because we have our professor, Mr. Arutchelvan from Department of Civil Engineering from Annamalai University. Okay. He's the expert in environmental engineering also. Maybe Mr. Arutchelvan, can you show your face to the audience?
Yes, sir. Please, can you please unmute and open your cam so that you can directly interact with the speaker? Please go ahead. Mr. Arutchelvan, please.
Arutchelvan is Sundar's classmate. If I'm not wrong.
And there is one student from chemical engineering, Augustine Roch also. Augustine Roch, you can talk if you want.
Actually, there is a alumni mentor group is there at engineering alumni mentor group, chemical mentor group. Students are coming through them to talks, various technical talks.
As mentioned or highlighted earlier, the session is open for all. We are always appreciate more questions. Please go ahead. And whoever wants to raise the question, please raise your hand, and so that we will activate or we will request you to connect the speaker. Yeah, please. Mr. Arut Chelvan, Mr. Agustin Raj, please come up. Or anybody else?
And then let's go for last question, and then we would probably.
I want to read out another few more appreciation from Ramasamy Kumaresan. Anna, presentation, it's a great presentation with the Singapore government initiative, very informative. Thank you, Mr. Kumaresan. From Murthy Perumal. Well done, Sundar, great presentation and very good audience. Thank you, Mr. Murthy. And yeah, there are a lot of appreciation. From Anbaragan, Singapore. Great, Sundar. Nice presentation, informative. Shashank Bala. Thank you so much, sir. Very well presentation. And Mr. Saravana Kumar. Very excellent session. And yeah, from Narayan Sami Venkatraman. Very good and useful session. And from Agustin Raj. I'm a final year student. The message from him, let me read out. I'm a final year student at the Department of Chemical Engineering, Annamalai University. Sir, excellent session from you. It's a great and meaningful session. Then your presentation and way of communication is very nice. It's my first session with you, sir. Thanks for this opportunity and thanks for Anbaragan sir for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Agustin Raj. You are always step into this all the session. We will update to you on the next session as well, so that you can join us. And from Nedambur Karthikeyan, thanks Sundar for the excellent session and talk and your answer about carbon credit. Yeah, thank you for the answers as well. Yeah.
And then
I think we are almost come to an end. Finally, from Rajesh. Hello, Sundar. Thanks for the great sharing today, the statistics and the facts. Examples quoted with relevance to day-to-day life helps us to connect with the subject. Thank you, Rajesh. Yes, sir. Almost we are done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Who is the last and final person who is going to raise the question? There is only one more slot. Anybody else?
Then we can go for this one.
Okay. Once again, thank you all for making this Q&A session more vibrant and interactive. Thanks a lot once again. Now it's a time for us to extend our thanks to all of you. I would like to invite our youth team member, Mr. Dayanidhi, for a vote of thanks. Dayanidhi, please go ahead.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். நான் தயாநிதி 2007 சிவில் தொட்டனை தூரும் மணற்கேணி மாந்தர்க்கு கற்றனை தூரும் அறிவு என்னும் வள்ளுவரின் வாக்குக்கிணங்க தான் பெற்ற கல்வி அனுபவம் நம்மிடையே பகிர்ந்து சஸ்டைனபிலிட்டி த ஃபியூச்சர், அதாவது நிலைத்தன்மை என்ற சிறப்பு தலைப்பில் நம்முடைய உரையாற்றிய உயர்திரு சுந்தர் செல்லம் அவர்களுக்கு ஏற்பாட்டு குழுவின் சார்பாகவும் அண்ணாமலை பல்கலைக்கழக முன்னாள் மாணவர் சங்கம் சார்பாகவும் எங்கள் உளமார்ந்த நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றேன். இவ்விழாவின் துவக்கமாக கொள்கை உரையாற்றிய தலைவர் சவுந்தரராஜன் அவர்களுக்கு நன்றி. சிறப்பு பேச்சாளரை நம்மிடம் அறிமுகம் செய்து வைத்து அற்புத உரையாற்றிய அண்ணன் திரு கருணாநிதி அவர்களுக்கும் நன்றி. மேலும் இவ்விழாவை சிறப்பூட்டும் முறையில் தொகுத்து வழங்கிய அண்ணன் செந்தில் சம்பந்தம் அவர்களுக்கு நன்றி. அவ்வண்ணம் விழா ஏற்பாட்டுக்குழு தலைவர் அண்ணன் திரு அன்பழகன் மற்றும் செயலாளர் சகோதரி சொர்ணா அவர்களுக்கும் எங்கள் மனமார்ந்த நன்றிகள். அவ்வண்ணமே இத்தருணத்தில் அனைத்து செயற்குழு உறுப்பினர்களுக்கும் மற்றும் இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு ஆதரவு தந்த பிளாட்டினம் ஸ்பான்சர் ஸ்ரீ முருகன் ட்ரேடிங், டைமண்ட் ஸ்பான்சர் அமுதம் ஃபுட்ஸ், டைமண்ட் ஸ்பான்சர் தமிழ் கியூப், உலக அளவில் இருந்து இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியில் கலந்து கொண்டு விழாவை சிறப்பித்து அனைவருக்கும் உளமார்ந்த நன்றியை அண்ணாமலை பல்கலைக்கழக முன்னாள் மாணவர் சங்கம் சார்பாக தெரிவித்துக் கொள்வதோடு இச்சிறப்பு நிகழ்வில் கலந்து கொண்டு பல ஆக்கப்பூர்வமான கேள்விகளை முன்வைத்து உங்கள் அனைவருக்கும் நன்றி தெரிவித்து விடைபெறுகின்றேன். நன்றி, நன்றி, நன்றி. வணக்கம்.
சிறப்பு தயாநிதி, உங்கள் நன்றியுரையோடு இந்த விழா, இந்த செஷன், இந்த நிகழ்வு இனிதே நிறைவு பெறுகிறது. உங்கள் அனைவருக்கும் மீண்டும் ஒரு முறை எங்களது நன்றிகளை தெரிவித்து விடைபெறுகிறோம். நன்றி, நன்றி, நன்றி.
அடுத்த செஷன் சொல்லியிருப்போம். செஷன் வந்து